The price of the world's most popular cryptocurrency has rallied to its highest level in 19 months.
Still, what a move. I mean, Bitcoin up somewhat, 150% this year. Tremendous.
So your view is that Bitcoin will hit a new all-time high this year? Have you got any price calls at the moment?
I mean, we estimate just internally that we'll definitely hit the all-time high levels by the end of this year.
After years of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, hundreds of articles stating that Bitcoin is finally dying, and a decline in its price of over 75%, Bitcoin is finally back, and we may be about to experience its biggest bull run yet. In 2021, Bitcoin hit an all-time high price of $69,000, but ever since then it has been on a steep downward trend. But things are starting to change. In late 2023, we saw the price of Bitcoin rise to well above $40,000, and that upward trend has continued into 2024. To many, it seems clear that a new Bitcoin bull run is just getting started. So why is Bitcoin's price increasing? How long could this bull run last? And how high will Bitcoin's price go this time around? Let's dive into these questions so that you can understand what to expect from Bitcoin in 2024 and 2025. There are three factors that have contributed to the start of this bull run. And it's important that you understand these, as they will likely continue to impact Bitcoin's price throughout the entirety of the bull run. These three factors are the approval of multiple Bitcoin ETFs, the Bitcoin halving, and the improvement of the overall economy. Let's go over each of these. It's no secret that the Bitcoin ETFs are a massive deal. After years of constant ridicule from traditional finance, they are finally starting to change their minds about Bitcoin. And the fact that you can trade Bitcoin on the stock market is a massive sign of that change. The approval of a Bitcoin ETF is the turning point. It's when Bitcoin goes from something that's more niche to full-blown mainstream adoption. I do think that looking back in a decade or two, many will look at the approval of a Bitcoin ETF in the United States as one of Bitcoin's most important events. It's been a major reason that this bull run has gotten started, because many people already know what an impact the approval of an ETF will have for Bitcoin in the long term. Just look at Galaxy Digital's findings. They determined that the new inflows into Bitcoin from ETFs alone will cause its price to increase by over 74% in just the first year. And that's just from the inflows. Many other factors directly associated with the Bitcoin ETFs will likely result in much wider adoption of Bitcoin and could possibly cause the price of Bitcoin to increase by much more. So, many people started buying up Bitcoin in anticipation of an ETF being approved. The Bitcoin halving, which will happen in April of 2024, has also got a lot of people excited. A halving is an event that occurs every 210,000 blocks, which is roughly every 4 years. Each time a halving occurs, the number of new Bitcoins created with each block is halved, hence the name. The 2024 halving will be Bitcoin's fourth, dropping the total number of new Bitcoins with each block from 6.25 to 3.125. These new Bitcoins are paid to miners who use computing power to secure the network, and as of now, this is their biggest revenue source, even over transaction fees. So when a halving occurs, it can really affect their business because there are half as many Bitcoin for them to earn. Halvings also just make Bitcoin more scarce. If half the number of Bitcoins are coming into circulation, that means that there are just fewer new Bitcoins for everyone. And when there is the same or more demand with less supply, it is likely to lead to an increase in price. After previous halvings, the price of Bitcoin hasn't always gone up immediately. Just look at the third halving that happened in May of 2020. While Bitcoin's price did increase some after the halving, the real insanity of the bull run didn't get started until the end of that year. So while the halving may not immediately send Bitcoin to some ridiculous price, it does typically have an impact on the price, even if it can be somewhat delayed. A lot of people know that, and it has likely encouraged them to buy some Bitcoin before the halving. The last major factor is the economy. It's no secret that for a while, things weren't looking great. Inflation had risen to its highest level in decades, economic growth was slowing, and the Federal Reserve raised interest rates a lot. All of this combined weakened the economy and left many people without much extra cash to invest. But in recent months, that has all changed. Inflation has come down to more manageable levels. Wage growth has been outpacing inflation, and the US economy has been growing at an impressive rate. These positive economic factors have no doubt contributed to the 150% increase in Bitcoin's price in 2023. And even the stock market made huge gains that year, with the S&P 500 being up over 20%. If we continue to see wages rise, inflation fall, and economic growth, it is safe to say that the price of Bitcoin will continue to increase. If you look back at 2021, when Bitcoin hit its previous all-time high, economic conditions were much more favorable, and people had a lot more money to invest in things like stocks and Bitcoin. All three of these factors combined have led to the astounding 150% price increase that we saw for Bitcoin in 2023, and they will all likely be major contributing factors to its price in 2024 and 2025. That's why Bitcoin's price is increasing, but how long will the bull run actually last? While every single run isn't identical, they do all have similarities, and the last couple have lasted roughly around a year, but it's a bit more complicated than that. There are usually several things that happen before and after a bull run. This set of events is called the Bitcoin cycle, and the halving marks the beginning of each one. So first you have the halving, and usually in the months leading up to the halving and the months immediately following it, we see the price of Bitcoin increase, but it's usually not by massive amounts. Instead, this increase is slow and steady. This is exactly what we have seen in 2023. The price of Bitcoin never skyrocketed straight up or made new all-time highs. Instead, it slowly recovered a lot of lost ground over the year. This phase is called the accumulation phase. Then after a certain point, usually around 6 months or so after the halving, we move into the full-blown bull run. This is when Bitcoin's price starts to really go crazy. We see major price increases over a very short period of time, and Bitcoin keeps hitting new all-time high after new all-time high. If you were here during the 2021 bull run, then this period was really from the beginning of 2021 up until it hit its all-time high price in November. The accumulation phase and the bull run phase can kind of blend together, and when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to know exactly when one ends and the other begins. But that doesn't matter too much considering that the price of Bitcoin is going up during this entire period. To make a long story short, you usually get like a year or a year and a half of an accumulation phase. That then turns into about a year of a real bull run. Then the price crashes, you get a bear market, and then the cycle repeats. Every cycle isn't the same, and there can be some significant differences. But so far, Bitcoin has generally followed this trend, and I don't see why this time would be any different, but it could be. That being said, Bitcoin will likely continue to rise in price well through 2025. So with everything seeming to go right for Bitcoin right now, how high could its price actually go? Before I even get into this, it's important to know that this is all just speculation, and that we have no way to know for sure how high Bitcoin could go. First, let's compare this current Bitcoin bull run to previous ones. During the 2017 bull run, Bitcoin went from around $650 in July of 2016, at the time of the second halving, all the way to $19,000 in December 2017. That's an increase of over 2,800%. The 2021 bull run also had a decent increase, but not nearly as large. In May of 2020, during the third halving, the price of Bitcoin was at around $8,500, and it reached an all-time high price of $69,000 in November of 2021. That's an increase of over 700%, which is still really good, but definitely a step down from 2,800%. And that is common from bull run to bull run. As Bitcoin gets bigger, the price increases, percentage-wise at least, get smaller. It's much easier to move Bitcoin from $10 to $20 than it is to move it from $10,000 to $20,000, just due to how much money needs to flow into it. That means the percentage increase Bitcoin will see in this 2024 to 2025 bull run will likely be less than 700%, but it'll probably still be very significant. So let's pretend that on the day of the fourth halving, Bitcoin is at $50,000. Then let's assume that in a year and a half it increases by 500%. That would mean that around September of 2025, Bitcoin's price could peak at around $300,000, which is a pretty insane price to imagine Bitcoin at, but it could peak higher or lower than that depending on a ton of circumstances. But I don't think $300,000 for one Bitcoin is an unreasonable price target at all. But let's look at what some other people have to say. Standard Chartered, a multinational bank, believes that Bitcoin will hit $200,000 by the end of 2025, simply because the inflows into Bitcoin after the approval of a Bitcoin ETF would be between $50 and $100 billion. Plan B, the anonymous creator of the controversial stock-to-flow Bitcoin model, predicts that in 2024 alone, we will see Bitcoin's price hit $100,000, and he believes that in 2025 we could see a Bitcoin price of over $500,000, which is very bullish. Cathie Wood, the CEO of ARK Invest, which is one of the companies that has been trying to get a Bitcoin ETF approved for several years, hasn't given any specific 2024 or 2025 price predictions, but she has given a more general long-term prediction that could be insightful. She has stated that she believes Bitcoin will hit $650,000 by 2030 as a base case scenario, and she believes it could go up to $1 million or even $1.5 million by 2030 as her bull case. This could certainly line up with Bitcoin being at or above $300,000 in 2025, but she probably feels safer making a long-term prediction rather than a short-term one. Those are a few notable predictions for Bitcoin's potential all-time high price over the next couple of years, and as you can tell, they are a little all over the place. While all the predictions I mentioned do see Bitcoin's price increase, the amounts vary substantially. Obviously, no one can truly predict the future, but these predictions do show just how bullish many Bitcoiners really are. This Bitcoin bull run is likely to be the most eventful one yet. We are going to probably see true mainstream adoption for Bitcoin with the Bitcoin ETF. We will also go through a halving and probably have a fairly decent economy. Those three factors could certainly lead us to see a Bitcoin price of well over $300,000 in 2025. If you want to learn more about how this Bitcoin bull run and the entire Bitcoin cycle in general could play out, why not check out my video, Bitcoin Isn't Dead, where I take an in-depth look at how Bitcoin cycles work.